Hey, friends, and Merry Christmas to all of you. I hope that you guys have enjoyed a wonderful Christmas Eve and are now enjoying a fantastic Christmas Day. In this tutorial, we're gonna go ahead and paint Charlie Brown. I'm gonna show you how I painted this character. I'm gonna show you, we're not sketching him. What I did was I just kind of pulled the sketch from one of the scenes from the film, and I just used the line art. We're only gonna do, this is a painting course, but I'm gonna show you how I painted him. I'm gonna show you how I added this kind of vintagey, distressed look to it, or grainy look to it. So we're gonna do that. Let me know in the comments below. This video ended up being a little bit longer than I wanted it to be. It's about an hour long, which is a lot longer than I planned for it to be. But let me know, do you like that? Do you like these longer videos where you get to see more of the process? Or do you rather I kind of just go over some of the basics, maybe not paint the whole character, or maybe do like smaller, simpler 10 to 15 minute videos? Like, what do you prefer? Do you like a little bit of both? Let me know in the comments. Please let me know because it helps me figure out what it is that you want to see more of. And it'll just help me kind of deliver that to you in the best way possible. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started on this tutorial. All right, so let's get started. So this would be the file that you downloaded. This is the file that I provided. It's a PSD file. So again, you do need Photoshop, obviously, to follow along with this tutorial. But it's very, very simple. We're going to try to keep it easy. And so let's go ahead and get started. So very easy. We've got a background layer, which is this here. We've got our, I titled it color, but it's our color or silhouette. Then we've got our sketch. So if you turn that off, you see, so we've got our sketch layer, and then we have this texture layer. And I'll get to what this texture layer is for later. We're not going to deal with that right now. As far as brushes, I think I included one or two brushes that you could use, or a link or something. But there's tons of brushes everywhere online, free Photoshop brushes. I would look for free digital painting brushes for Photoshop. I know it's a mouthful, but I would look for something around those lines. Or free digital painting brushes. Don't just do like free Photoshop brushes because you'll get other like pattern whatever brushes. I don't know. At least that's what comes up for me. But free digital painting brushes. You could find a ton of them online. But anyways, we're gonna start off with this hard round pressure size, this hard round brush. It's a standard brush with Photoshop. um, we're gonna leave the things that I adjust is I never touch opacity, but I do adjust flow. And that has to do with like the pressure sensitivity of my brush when you're painting, and you'll see what that looks like eventually. But I'm gonna keep all of this stuff off for now, and I'm gonna keep the flow at 100% because right now we're just gonna fill the basic colors in, kind of like a coloring book. So we've got our standard brush. We are using flow. Everything is set up to everything here. You could just follow these settings. Everything is at 100. Ignore smoothing. Ignore all this other stuff. Um, and we've got color. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna try to keep this as simple as possible. We're gonna create one new layer. So if you click on this little plus symbol down here, you've got a new layer up here. I'm not gonna even title it. I'm just gonna, if you hold option in between those two layers, you see this funky little symbol, and that'll trap all the pixels within this layer. So now if we're gonna paint his hat, right? It's not coming out of the lines, like it's not going beyond those lines. It's like a coloring book, but you don't have to worry about painting beyond the lines. If you were to not do that, if you didn't trap it this way, it would go outside of it. So this is one way to do it. There's many ways you can do this, but this is one way. I think it's quick and easy. So let's go ahead and just paint in. What I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna paint in all the solid, the local colors, the base. I'll try to use simple terms here. The base color for each object. So his hat, his coat, all of that stuff. We're gonna just apply the base color for each thing. No shadow, no highlights or anything like that. Just the base color for that. We're gonna leave the skin the way that is. I think that might be accurate or close enough. Um, Feel free to use whatever colors you want here. I'm using something sort of similar to what he wears in the Christmas cartoon, but I think I've even adjusted it a little bit on my end. But feel free to use whatever you want. You could give him a green coat. You can do really whatever. It's up to you. Follow along, but feel free to kind of explore and experiment along the way. I always do that. I think it's helpful, and it just makes it more fun. Um, the pants, I'm gonna make the pants like they are gonna be black, or they're supposed to be black, at least for what I want to do. Um, but I don't like to use 100% black. I kind of like for it to be, if you see down here, it's a little. There we go. I actually kind of like this even more. Um, I don't like it to be 100% black. It's just I don't know. It just feels a little too stark for me, and I really like these muted colors also. So with the muted colors, I feel like this keeping everything consistent will work. So all right, so those are the pants. Now the shoes. I want the shoes to be. I think it's like the same color of his hat, maybe a little bit darker. Let's see. Yeah, I like that. That's pretty cool. And really, you're just painting. Like, you're just painting within those lines. That's it. I mean, Photoshop, it's really easy. It doesn't have to be complicated. There's a lot of things in there, a lot of options, a lot of like tools, filters, all that stuff. But if you're just trying to learn digital painting, keep it simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. That's it. We're almost done here filling in all the basic shapes. Let's just do this tree now. I think that for the tree, um, we could potentially use this same like color, but I think I want to go more like I'm gonna add a little bit. So this color wheel here, if this is not what you're looking at, if you just click on your options here, if you click on, make sure that you have your, sorry, I should have mentioned this first. You could set your workspace to painting, and then you should get, I don't want to change it on mine because I have my specific workspace. But if you set it to painting, you should see your layers. You should see this color panel. You should see all that. And I'm really sorry. I should have mentioned that in the beginning. But once you get this, this is the color panel. So that's what this guy is. So once you get that open, if you click on this here, see I've got color wheel. But if you have like the a lot of people use this. I used to use this for a long time, for many years. And then when I discovered this color wheel, I always loved it. So, but anyways, so this is the color that I have. If you use Alt, if you press Alt, it'll give you this color picker, and then you can pick whatever color on your screen. If I pick this color for his shoes, I think that's a good color for the base for the tree. Um, but I think I want it to be a little bit darker. I don't know. Let's see. I guess we could always try it and then change it afterwards. So let me just paint it in carefully, trying not to go over his fingers or other areas. Just taking my time with it. And what we can do is, I'll show you this. If you use the wand tool here, and you click on the color, you select that. You can go real quick, instead of painting manually every time to see what color you want. You can just open hue saturation, and then you can change the hue of this thing to whatever color you want. Um, let's see. Maybe I want it to be more desaturated, like a drift, like a dry kind of old wood. Um, and maybe this will be a lighter, kind of like a lighter brown, like this. I think that's a nice color. And then I think what I'm gonna do is, then the tree will be like a darker brown with more red in it. Maybe even a little bit more red than that. Like that. And then just paint it all the way in. And that's it. Um, I like that. I think that's kind of cool. It's a nice contrast. And then lastly, let's paint this ball. which the ball, the shape, it's a little wonky. It's not a perfect circle, but I think it kind of goes with this whole Charlie Brown. Like their lines are all very like wonky like that and scribbly, and so it kind of fits that theme. I'm gonna make it a red ball. I'm gonna kind of just use the same color that I used for his jacket. We're gonna paint that in, and then the little cap at the top, that's silver, so I'm gonna leave it. Let's see. I'm gonna move it all the way over here to like some gray, like a grayish color. I changed it to blue to give it a cool gray. And I think that's it. So now we have the base colors to all of these things down for this character. I'm gonna now go back down here. I'm gonna create another layer, and I'm gonna do the same thing, Alt and click. And then now I'm gonna change my brush to something a little bit softer. I'm gonna use this brush by Lowish, and if you look for her, Loish, Lowish brushes, you can find her brushes. I don't know if she has them free or if I think they're like $5 or something like that. They're really not that expensive. But I'm gonna go up here to flow, and I'm gonna change it to 30. Yeah, let's do 35. 35. I'm gonna turn this on for pressure sensitivity. I'm gonna turn both of these guys on. I just do. It's out of habit. I don't know if it's necessary to do for both, but I've always done it like that. And so anyways, so let's go ahead and move on. I think looking at this now, I think that this little thing here, this little area here, I think that might be the jacket. Yeah. Yeah, I think that actually might be the jacket. So I'm going to paint that in before we move on. All right, so yeah, I think that makes more sense. All right, so now that we have all the base color kind of painted on this, so now remember, we've got our silhouette. This is, in this layer, we've got all of our base colors. And then now on this top one, we're going to start to kind of give it a little bit of, just a little bit of lighting. And we're going to do it very simple. Again, I'm really not going to spend too much time. So we're going to start with like some of the darker areas. And let's see, we're going to do a little bit of shadow. So to do the shadow, I'm gonna color pick his skin, and a lot of times people just kind of go like this, they go down, they just add darkness to it. So like a lot of times people will just color pick, and then like if you see these sliders up here, they'll just add black to it, and they'll say, okay, boom, that's my shadow color. A lot of times people will do that. You don't want to do this. It looks muddy. It doesn't look right. It doesn't look natural. It's gray. You don't want to add shadow that way. You don't just add black to the color. So let's color pick that again. What I do is bring it down some. So instead of bringing it down to black like that, we're gonna bring it down. Right, just straight down, and then we're gonna add a little bit of red. And now we're going to take a look at that. And see, that looks, if you're able to, I know it's probably hard to remember what we just looked at before. I'm going to add a little tiny bit more darkness to it and a little bit more red. And maybe that's too much. I'm going to bring it back up a little tiny bit. All right, that's good. So I don't know if you remember what it looked like before, but it was very kind of like a grayish color, like a grayish, muddy kind of shadow. And it just doesn't look very natural. It looks it's just not the proper way to kind of start to bring in your values. And there's a lot of things you have to think about. A lot of people call it shading, but when you're adding light and shadow, color is very important. The color temperature. So is it like grayish, or is it like very vibrant color like your shadows? Are they like kind of muddy and gray, or do they still have some color in them? You want them to have a little bit of color in them. You don't want to just add black to a color. It's just not the way. It's not going to look believable. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking this same shadow color, and just lightly underneath, I'm adding some more shadow. Because I want the light, imagine like the light is coming from somewhere like up here. Like the top right. and it's coming down from the top. Uh, and so maybe all of this, I'm just pressing, I'm using my stylus pen, I'm using my tablet. Obviously, you need a tablet to do this tutorial. Um, and then I'm just very lightly just kind of and blending that in. And maybe I went too light. I want to kind of bring in. I'm just using the brush tool, very soft. Remember, 35% flow. It allows you to build up your shadow instead of like uh, spitting it out all at 100%. Um, this whole ear, I'm gonna make it the shadow color, and then I'll blend it out a little bit. Um, so something like that. That looks fun. That looks cool. Very simple. Maybe under his nose, we're gonna have a little bit of shadow here, and that starts to add a little bit of dimension to it. A little bit of shadow under there. Um, and then let's see. Let's kind of just stick with the skin for now. His hand, maybe this bottom part here, like this. Maybe that bottom part under there has some shadow. And maybe the same thing with his thumb. Remember, everything is catching the light at the top right. Think of these as individual little shapes. This thumb is a little shape. This hand, think of it as one shape. So it's catching light from the top. Maybe there's a little bit of shadow behind this thumb here. And so that's pretty much it. Then I want to make the nose and his cheeks a little rosy. So I'm going to select this color again. I'm going to add more red to it, but I'm not going to go too far down. I'm not going to add too much, let's say, darkness to it. Because then it's going to be really, it's going to be too dark. You want it to be, you don't want it to be too different in value. You want it to be more different in the color. So when I say value, like in the lighter darkness, you don't want it to be like much darker. You just want it to change the color. So it has this nice soft rosy kind of feel to it. And you could probably make the ears a little bit more red too. Maybe this one over here, I just pick this same color and maybe I just add a little bit more red to it. There we go. And it's very subtle, but it feels a little bit more red, a little rosy. And then now let's move on to the clothes. So now his hat. We're going to pick the color, the base color, and then we're going to go up and add a little bit more yellow to it. I don't want it to get too desaturated. I want to still have some nice vibrancy to the color. Um, and so we're just kind of adding a little bit of highlight on the top. It's catching some of the light up top. And you know what? I think this is originally in the cartoons, they kind of keep it like the same color, but I think I want this to be like almost like that wool color. But I don't want it to get lost. See, that's the challenge. I don't want it to get lost in that background color. But I think it'll be all right. I don't know. You know, this is it. It's trial and error, right? So, you know what? We're gonna undo, and you can go to your. You could keep hitting Command Z or Control Z if you're on a Mac, on a PC. I think I'm just gonna go. Let's see. You can go to your history. If you click on your history panel, history, and if it's not open, you can go in here, window, and just find it, history. And you could click back. There it is. So instead of going one at a time, you can go all the way back to where, just find that spot. There it is. So I'm just gonna go back to there. I'm gonna leave it that way. I'm not gonna change it to wool. I don't like the way that was looking. But you can feel free to do whatever you want. All right. So something like that. Now let's do the jacket. So if you select that and then go up, add a little bit of yellow to that. I think it's a little too much. Let's see. Here we go. Maybe something like that. And so now just hitting the tops of these planes, like you're hitting the top part right here. If the light is hitting him from the top, if it's coming from the top right, it's catching light up here. Maybe this top part is catching some light. And actually maybe this side of the collar is not really catching. So something like this. And maybe this collar is casting a little bit of a shadow. So what I'm doing is I'm using this option key to select the light and option to select the dark. So I'm kind of like toggling back and forth. Because what you do to blend is, let me create a new layer here. What you do to blend is, if you've got this, as your base color, I'm gonna color select. I'm gonna option click on the lighter color. You paint that on there. Right? You paint right over it, and then you kind of select this darker color and you paint over. You select the lighter. You paint over. So you kind of like keep brushing over until you get a nice little blend, and that creates a nice kind of painterly kind of feel to it. But you want to kind of spend a little bit of time with that so that it doesn't look too messy. You don't want it to look too messy and sloppy. So you want to take your time with that, painting that. Let me turn that off for now. So anyways, but I'm not, that's when we get into like rendering and stuff. I'm not going to get into too much of that with this video. We're going to, like I said, we're going to try to keep this on the more simple side. All right, so that's that. So now we've got that. I think we're going to keep the pants pretty solid. I'm going to select the color. I'm going to maybe add a little tiny bit of, even that's too, I don't think I want to do too much down here. Think about it like the wrinkles, like how the wrinkles kind of form on pants and stuff. And don't just arbitrarily just paint squiggles around everywhere like that, you know, like think about what are these, how do pants wrinkle? They tend to wrinkle up at the bottom is where you get, and then they kind of stretch out a little, or not stretch out, but they're not as wrinkly up top through the legs. Not, it depends, I guess. Depends on what size pants the person is wearing, if they fit them baggy or more, you know, tighter or whatever. So that's pretty much that for the pants. Let's do a little bit of a highlight for the shoes up top. I want to try to start moving a little quicker here. We still need to add a few more like things, work that up a bit, but let's move on to the tree. For the tree, I think what I want to do is real quickly, I want to select this color. Then I think I'm going to just do some color variation for the wood so that it's not just like this solid yellowy brown. So if you look, I'm going to zoom in. I just kind of squiggled in a few. So now there's a combination of yellow and red in there. I can go even brighter yellow a little bit and just kind of squiggle it in. And I feel like that creates a nice little illusion of wood. And it doesn't feel so flat, you know? If you wanted to, you could kind of make it where this is, you know, the bare wood side. Like, you know, it's maybe lighter here. You could do something like that where that's the lighter part of the wood where it's been cut. And then same thing in here. I'm going to add a little tiny bit of dark like a slightly darker reddish, just to add a little bit of variety of color. And that just kind of helps makes it feel more like organic and natural. Maybe here where there's a little chip off of the wood, maybe you can go a little bit darker to make it look like there's a cut in the wood, and a little bit darker there as well. A little, just kind of push that a little bit more. So that's nice. And then we'll deal with that wood later. We'll add some more stuff later. For the tree, I think we could just kind of select the base color, add a little bit of just a squiggly line, just not too much. Again, we're going to keep this fun and simple. So I'm just squiggling in some lighter areas in there. Have some fun with it. Don't take it too serious. Um, for this ball, this is highly reflective, but we're gonna make it more like a plasticky, easier paint. I'm not gonna get into super chrome like reflections. Again, that's gonna. I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible. So let's just add a little simple highlight to it. I'm using that as a disclaimer because I want to explain to you, like, we could make this look like, you know, highly reflective, but that's for a different video on another day. For now, I'm just kind of blending this in, giving this a soft little highlight. So now that's most of it there. That's most of it. Now we're just gonna add. I'm gonna create another layer. So click down here. I'm gonna option, click here, and now we're gonna just bring in some, like, a little bit of darkness. So we're gonna select that base color. I'm gonna bring this down, add a little tiny bit of red to that, and now we're gonna just add some shadow, under here, because this is not catching as much light under here because of the wrinkle, the way the hat kind of wrinkles. Some shadow back here. And you know what? This is a good time to do something. I don't typically have my outlines, my pencil lines. If you follow my work, I typically don't have lines. I kind of like my stuff to look like this, like without any line work. So we're going to take this sketch layer and we're going to lower it to we to where we can barely see what we need to fix and stuff. See, because there's some. What happens when you turn it off is you see these little empty weird spaces. We gotta fix that. But I'm gonna leave the line work on, but very very low, 10%. Let's see. Maybe I'll leave it at 10% so that you could see. Otherwise, if I lower it too much, I'm afraid you might not even be able to see what I'm looking at. So, all right. So let's again keep moving with the darker colors. We're almost done. Well, I shouldn't say we're almost done here, but we're getting close. We're getting really close. So I'm just gonna blend this in, and again, it's just using this eyedropper tool. You see, every time I hit the option key, use the eyedropper tool. Keep selecting somewhere in between, and so I select, and then I use the brush and I paint. I select, I use the brush and I paint. So just kind of keep doing that to blend your colors. Hopefully that's making sense. Let me know in the comments below if this has been easy to follow along, or if you have any questions about that. I'll try to answer whatever questions you guys have. Um, so yeah, so just kind of blend that in. Hopefully that again, you kind of like have your fun, have some fun with it. You could change the colors, you can do whatever you want with it. I think that looks pretty good for the hat for now. We're not, again, I would love to go in and really make this thing feel like 3D and dimensional, but I think for now, I think that's gonna do it. I have to move on. That way I can keep this video not too long. Let's see. So now for this here, for under the hat, let's fix this shape under here. So if we turn off the sketch completely, you see how this is a little sloppy under here. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Again, we're just trying to do a quick, fun video on how to paint one of Christmas's most popular cartoons. I grew up watching this. We're just going to tidy this up a little bit under here, though. And you do it with this shadow color because it gives it a nice edge. You see the way that creates a nice little edge there. And if you notice, I went a little bit darker right under here. This is a little bit darker than all the other areas. That's because this little, that's a really strong wrinkle here under his hat. And there's going to be even less light penetrating in through there. So that's why I'm doing that. So now that we've got that, maybe I'll add some of that real dark color. Maybe I might add some of it under here at the very edge. But now let's move on to the skin. So for the skin under here, under the head, let's maybe move this down a little bit more, add some more red to it. And there we go. And now I don't want to mess with this edge that I already created there. I'm just going to create, see how dark it is here? And then I'm just going to kind of soften that into this already existing shadow color. So I don't really want to mess with this too much. Again, the way I like to paint, I would go in and play around with this a lot more. I'll take it a lot further, but trying to keep this video as simple as possible and as fun as possible for you. I just added a little bit more red and a little bit more darkness to that color to add a little bit of a stronger shadow right under there. So that's that. This is really starting to, as an old instructor used to say, is really starting to sing. You know, it's really starting to come alive. It's a lot of fun. I love painting. Painting is just so much fun. It's so relaxing. Now we're just adding a little bit of shadow. I don't want to get too dark with this shadow under his nose, because then it's going to look dirty. It's going to look like dirt or whatever. It's just going to look too harsh. I want to keep everything really soft for this. And then under here, this is the bottom part of the nose. And if we look at the sketch line, this is the bottom part of the nose. I do want to add more shadow under here, but I want to keep it sort of red. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to turn off the sketch line so I can see what's going on under here. And this is going to be red because, again, we want the nose to feel a little bit more rosy red, like he's out in the cold. And then we're just going to blend it in the same way we did with everything else. Okay, so something like that. But you see the way this is kind of, it's all kind of running into each other. So I'm going to soften this shadow under his nose. There we go. So it can be defined. And then I'm going to go a little bit, this red under here, I'm going to go a little bit darker. It's all in subtleties. Don't go too harsh with your brush. Don't go too harsh because then it's going to look really, it's just not going to look right. So you want to go soft when you're kind of blending these little areas. You want to be gentle with this and take your time, you know. I'm trying to do this a little bit faster because I'm trying to try not to make this too long for you. But take your time on your end, you know. I just added, sorry, I'm moving without thinking here. I just added a little highlight there. Push it up, a little bit of yellow, and then a little highlight on his nose. Now let's, for his ears, let's see, let's turn on the sketch again. For the ears, let's just add a little bit of darkness under here at the bottom part. Let's do the same thing over here. Maybe that's too, I'm going to add a little bit more. Maybe that was too dark on this ear because this ear is catching a little bit more light. And then I'm just going to kind of squiggle in a little bit of something, shadow in the center. Again, just trying to do something very simple. For the ear, this is what I do. So here's the solid color shape. Let me turn off the sketch so you can see. For something like this where I'm just trying to do something really fast, I'll take the shadow color and then I'll paint a circle right in the center. With soft, I'll kind of soften it out at the edge, right? So I'll just paint a circle like that. Then I take this lighter color and then I just paint in like a little, it's kind of like a Pac-Man face. But then that starts to look a little bit more like an ear. If I'm just doing something super quick like this, that's a little trick. That's a little something I do. I'm not going to worry too much about this ear, but you could spend more time on that. So there we go. Now we're going to just, now that we've already kind of figured out our shadow colors up here for the skin, now we can just color pick this dark area and drop it in right under his chin. This neck area down here. And I'm just going to paint that whole area in shadow. Just like that. And then this highlight area right here from his jacket, I'm just going to kind of push this out a little bit. Because remember, all these little weird spaces in here, these little white spaces, you don't want any of that. You do want to clean that stuff up. Man, I really hope this is making sense. Again, let me know in the comments if you have any questions, if you're enjoying this, if you have any questions about the Image Maker Society, if you want to see, again, more of my process. I'm trying not to be salesy here, but if you want to see more of my process and how I do this, if you go to imagemakerssociety.com, the link is in the description below. You can see more. You could sign up for my artist membership, see more of my process. I do online, I do Zoom group coaching sessions and demos exclusively just for my members. So feel free to check that out. But again, back to this thing here. So that's pretty much it. So I want to just kind of address these little areas. Let's start to bring in some of the shadows, some of the darks for the jacket here. So something like that, and then let's see these lines again. So maybe we have some shadow there. Maybe we have a little bit of a shadow under this, just to define these little shadows. Instead of drawing lines, it's just like these little shadows to kind of help shape. Okay, that's the collar, right? So you add like little shadows strategically in these areas, or light. You play with light and shadow to kind of give this thing shape. So now I'm taking this light area and I'm painting in over this way. And it's just using shapes to give things form. Instead of feeling, a lot of times people you have a painting and then you have outlines with marker or pen. Now, if you're going for like a comic book kind of look, then that's fine. That works. But don't draw a line because you can't figure out how to paint, to make that, to describe the shape that you're trying to describe. That just means you need to practice a little bit more. We want to use shapes here to define we want to use paint to define and describe these different shapes. I want to try to stay away from any line work. Now, again, that's for my style. That's how I like to design and paint and color my characters. If you like outlines and stuff like that, then you could keep this flat. You could keep it the way we did when we just painted it in the very beginning, and then just drop in some outlines, and you could call it a day. I'm just trying to show you the way I paint and my style. It's not exclusive to me. I'm just kind of just sharing with you how I do it. A lot of people paint this way. Maybe here we can just kind of, even there, you see the way I'm using a line to describe this here, but I'm not really following all the way through, again, because this is just a fun a little piece to have fun with. Because this wrinkles up like this, maybe down here, maybe this top part is catching more light up here. Hopefully this makes sense. And then this bottom part, it might sit more in some shadow. I don't have time to like go in there and really refine that, but yeah, this part, if I did, I would spend more time. I would like really push that. But let's just keep it moving here. Let's go ahead and fix this down here. Instead of trying to paint a perfect line, sometimes I'll just use so if you use if you use this lasso tool here, make sure that it's set to 1 pixel. And then I just draw. There we go. And now select that color, and now I don't have to worry about drawing it in a perfect line. I've made a selection, and now I just paint in, and I hit Command D to deselect it, and there we go. I've got most of the way there. This is a little off down here, so now I'm gonna use this brown and bring it back in a little bit, and then that's good. All right, cool. So now for the bottom part of this coat, you see the way his kind of sleeve comes down like this here? So all I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this bottom shape a little bit darker. So I'm going to use this shadow color. And now I'm just going to kind of paint this whole... Let me use the lasso tool. So if I use this lasso tool up here, I'm going to select... Let me see if... Hopefully this makes sense. What I'm trying to say is I'm going to select this bottom part of the coat. Here we go. And I think I kind of messed this up a little bit. Let's, right there. All right, so I'm going to select that bottom part of the coat. And this is starting to get a little muddy. I'm going to add a little bit more color into that. There we go. And now I'm just going to paint this in shadow. So you see the way now that kind of adds more dimension to it without having to do a whole lot. So now that feels like he's catching a lot of light up top, not as much on the bottom. And then again, there's other ways that I would kind of finesse this a little bit, and I would kind of tighten this up. But I'm just going to add a little bit of dark shadow on the inside of this sleeve here. And then I'm going to just trying to do it quick. I'm just going to kind of brush in very softly, a little bit darker, this bottom part of the sleeve. There's a lot of other things that I would do with this, but I'm just going to do that for now. I think that gets the job done. And then in here, you see the way we have these wrinkles? Instead of, again, drawing a line, I'm going to just pick this color here, and then I'm going to drop this down, a little bit of red. Basically, I'm just using the shadow color. And let's see. We're going to paint in a little bit of shadow just along that edge. Let me turn off the sketch. I'm going to use this shadow color here. I'm going to kind of bring that in a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to keep this edge in here on this side. I'm going to try to keep this edge a little dark here. So watch. So we are outlining this. Let me see the sketch again. Yeah. So we're going to outline this. So on this side, it's a hard edge. But then on this other side up here, coming up towards his chest, this is going to fade out. And again, I would spend more time making this look more believable and giving it a little bit more shape, but this is just the gist of it. You see how it's hard, like a hard edge on this side, and then it kind of feathers out up on this side? That's a way to give something form without having to draw like a black line there to give something shape. These wrinkles, I would love to spend a little bit more time on them, finessing them, but we got to get going. We got to start to wrap this thing up. So I'm gonna call it a day on that. And then let's see. These hands need a lot of work, but we're gonna keep it fun. Listen, we're gonna keep it simple. I'm gonna try to wrap this thing up because we still got to finish up the tree. But and like I said, if you want to see more of this, I do teach on Image Maker Society. But I'm gonna do more of these. I'm gonna do more of these free videos. So just stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that little subscribe button and turn on your notifications so that you know when I post something new. I'm gonna try to do more of these. Share some other tips. Maybe not full characters every time. Maybe sometimes it's just like, hey, I'm gonna teach you how to paint a certain type of texture or something like that. Just try to keep like short snippet little helpful videos. Now I'm just kind of going all the way through. I'm kind of painting in, giving in these hands a little bit more shape, but I'm gonna kind of leave them like that, nice and rough. Again, this is just supposed to be a fun sketch. It's Christmas Eve, and my family has given me some time to just sit over here and record a quick video for you guys. Let's see. So for the shoes, I'm going to give it a little bit of shadow down here. I'm going to add some red. And we're just going to give it back here. There you go. And remember, be soft, be gentle with that brush. Don't be too heavy and harsh with it. And depending on what brush you're using, you kind of have to... Some brushes you might have to adjust this flow. You might have to bring it down quite a bit to like 10 or 12. Just depends on the brush that you're using. So something like that. I might add some scuff marks to his shoes and stuff like that, but for now I think that's fine. Let's start to give this wood base a little bit more shape. So let's pick the base color. Let's come down. Let's add a little bit of red. And now let's give it a shadow on this side. Maybe go a little bit darker. Let's give it a shadow on this side. There we go. And then I think I want to give it a little lip over it like this. There we go. I don't know what these things look like. I don't know what these things look like in real life. I don't know if that's the structure of it, but that looks right to me. And then this one is going to be a little bit darker than this. And I don't know if that's accurate or not, but it sounds right in my head. In my mind, that sounds right. And then we're going to, using this same color, if you just go like this, boom, just a little, that easy, it makes it look like there's a little, you know, a little crack in it or a little imperfection in the wood. Very easy to do stuff like that. I'm going to use this dark color here. I'm going to do the same thing over there. Maybe you could make this one long. It kind of stretches into the wood. And then don't overdo it. I'm just going to leave it at those two. I tend to overdo it every once in a while. It looks cool when you get it just right. And then you want to put little cracks and like little nicks all over the place, and it begins to be too much. So self-control. Self-control is important. And then there's some weird little spaces in here that I think should be a different color, but I'm just being honest. I'm just letting you know I'm going to ignore that for now. Maybe a little nick in there. Color this in. Some weird imperfections there. And then this tree. Some weird empty spots there. I'm not going to spend too much time figuring out how is this actually sitting at this base. I'm going to leave that alone. For the tree itself up here, let's start to try to, we're getting close to wrapping this thing up. Let's just add some squiggly lines. I can maybe do something on trees in another tutorial, but for now, let's just kind of add some squigglies in there. I wouldn't do too much. Don't go too heavy on this. Keep it subtle. Make this tree feel... See, I'm going to kind of paint over because I almost want it to be sort of like a solid brown with very subtle imperfections. Don't go too extreme with like highlights. So in other words, don't like do this here. Like, you don't want to do that. I mean, you could if you want. It's your drawing. But subtlety. I like subtlety is key. For this ball, let's see. For this ball up here, let's kind of fill in these shapes. I think I want to kind of adjust that ball a little bit now. Now that we're at a good place, we're almost done with him. I want to give you, let's see. I think when, no, I'm going to go ahead and just flatten this whole thing. Now that we're done with it, just in case if you ever want to go back to your work, it's nice to have your layers. So maybe you don't flatten it. If you select the color layer here and then shift, click up top to all your layers, everything that has color on it, and then Command G will put them in a group. So now they're all grouped together. Now that you have this group, I'll title it colors. And then if you right click on this, duplicate group, and then you've duplicated it, and then Command E will merge it. So now it's all on one layer. Everything is flattened. So what I'm going to do is I flattened it just so I can go in and just finalize like final little areas. I'm going to go in and I'm going to adjust this here. There's some little imperfections here. And we're almost there. We're almost done. We are almost done. I'm going to fix up these little empty spaces here. I think what I want to do with this ball is I think I want to adjust it. I want to kind of clean it up a little bit. I'm okay with the wonky shape, but it's just a little too wonky for me. So this is using this ellipse selection, and I'm just putting it here on this side, and then I'm just gonna paint in just to adjust the shape of that ball a little bit. There we go. I'm okay with a little bit of wonkiness, but it was just looking really strange. Now, instead of creating additional layers to trap the way we were doing before, having the color layer selected, I'm going to hit this little checkerboard thing, and that's going to lock your pixels within that shape. So that's another way that you could kind of trap your colors within your silhouette. And now when I paint, it's all in there. I'm gonna add a little bit of shadow color down here, like this. Be careful with the tree because it'll paint into that tree. It's all the layers are flattened. So I'm gonna paint like this, but I'm gonna try to avoid that tree. Just trying to give this a little bit more shape here. And so you see that now that starts to feel more round, like a like an actual ball. And then up here, because this is still pretty reflective material, then we are just gonna give it a little, just a simple little highlight. Almost looks like an apple, I guess. And then I'm gonna select this, and I'm gonna use like this warm blue kind of color as my highlight up here, like a turquoise blue sort of. Blue with a little bit more green in it. So something like that. And then I'm gonna unlock the pixels because now for this I am gonna draw. I'm gonna use this hard round brush and I'm gonna just draw in this string. And I would, again, this is one of those things I would like to figure out how that actually is structured, but like how it actually, like right now it just looks like where's that string actually tied to, but for now, for this video, we're just keeping it fun and simple. Going back to my lowish hard round brush, and then in here I'm gonna use almost white, and I'm gonna give it like another little highlight there. And then that's pretty much it. Now you're probably thinking, what do you mean, what happened to his face? Everything's missing. Now I'm gonna lock pixels again, and I'm gonna just hit like certain areas with like really dark, like this under here, maybe this under here under the hat, maybe this in here, hit it really soft with a little bit more shadow, maybe this little back here, maybe under here I'm gonna use this shadow color and go like this. Now I'm gonna completely turn off the sketch lines, and you see we don't even need them. So now I'm gonna hit this side of the neck just a little bit. There we go. I think this ear, maybe just in this corner in here. A little bit of shadow in there, just like that. In here, not the whole thing, but just this top corner part of the ear, like that. Maybe under here for his nose, maybe go a little tiny bit darker, but again, be subtle with the nose, very gentle with the nose. Then in here for the jacket, I'm gonna go pretty dark, and then just in here, just this little area in there. There you go. And then maybe somewhere in this corner back here, like in this other hand, this arm that's back there. Maybe this crevice here will have some darks, and then blend it out. Remember, hard edge on one side, blend it out on the other. There we go. That starts to give it a nice shape. Go pick this dark color again, and then maybe under here it's a little bit darker on this side, because this is actually, I'm like talking with my hands. I forget you obviously can't see my hands, but the light is coming from the top right. So this right under here is probably, this whole tree and all of this stuff is probably casting, will be casting like a shadow on this front part of his body. Try not to get too black. There's still a lot of red in this color that I'm using here. Try not to just use black. It's going to look very muddy and dark. So I might, again, if I was doing this for like a client or something else, an actual piece that I was going to sell, if it was original art or something, I would finesse the colors a little bit more. But try not to go too black with this color under there. You could still go nice and dark and keep it. Let's see if I should push it. And keep it saturated. Not too saturated. I know. It's kind of, you're gonna have to kind of, it just feels right. I remember there was a guy, a tutorial that I was watching, and he just kept saying until it looks right. And I'm like, well, what if it looks right to me, but it looks wrong to somebody else? Like it's, but I understand what he means though. Like, you start to get a feel for these things the more you do it, you know? Some things are just, it just takes time, you know. A little bit of shadow under there. Again, the hands are a whole other thing, and I really hate to not spend more time on this. Um, but maybe just select that shadow color, maybe go a little darker. Maybe just give it a little hint of something under there, just to separate those fingers a little bit. Turn off the sketch. Yeah, hands is another thing that could take us, that could stretch this video to be much longer than I want it to be, and I don't want to do that. Um, so anyways, yeah, the hands need quite a bit of work. Let's do this. Whoa. I'm just using this negative space from the wood. And actually, like I said, this is a weird area. I feel like this would actually be from the jacket red over here or something, or maybe his other hand. I don't know. It's a weird little area. This isn't my original drawing. The line work was from a scene from from the actual cartoon film or cartoon. So that's that. Now the very last thing. Well, actually, and before we get to the very last thing, let's just give this wood here. I'm gonna select this light part. I'm gonna go up a little bit, more yellow into it, and we're gonna just give it a little bit of a highlight right on that edge, just like that. Maybe, you know, it looks almost like it's kind of distressed a little bit. And then I'm gonna leave the tree alone. Now the very last thing is we are going to draw in his eyes. That we will draw in. I'm gonna use, again, almost black, not quite black. And this will be the easy part. I'm really just kind of using those lines there. And simple little eyebrows. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on those eyebrows, but and then maybe the mouth. I don't know if I'm gonna use black. I guess I could just use black. I feel like that goes with the style of the film, of the cartoon. Maybe I just keep it simple and very simple. Everyone knows how to draw a smiley face. This is the easiest part. And they do add these little ends. Turn off the sketch, and there you have it. That is Charlie Brown. That is simple. The reason why this is all squiggly down here like this is because what I wanted to do down here is I wanted to add I wanted to add a shadow, almost as if he's kind of, you know, because he's standing on snow, so you kind of squish into the snow. You sink in a little bit. And then very softly, just kind of paint in a little shadow. Maybe there's a little bit more here because of the thing he's holding in his hand. And then once you squiggle that in, you see it looks really messy. Be sure to go in and just kind of blend it in with the background. Just make it soft. Be very soft, you know, gentle with this. Because then it could just look like dirt. It could look really bad and really. So keep it. Be very gentle with that part. That's pretty much it. He's sitting on snow there. Maybe right as it gets really close to his feet, it gets a little bit darker. But I'm not gonna go too dark with the snow. So that's that. Let's see. There was something else, I think. Oh, I did want to add the texture. The very last thing is, so this texture I mentioned before. You see how just it's really rough. You want to kind of set this down, maybe to like, I guess 15% is nice. Just to give it like this vintagey kind of look. So I take that. I guess I put it on 12%. And then now I'm going to take this whole thing. I'm going to select the whole thing. And I'm going to Command G to group it again. I'll just title it Art. And then I'm going to duplicate this group again. And then I'm going to flatten it. Command E. So the whole thing is flattened. And I think I'm going to add a little bit now of noise. So if you go to Filter, Noise, Add Noise. And sorry, I've got two screens here, but this here is what you should see. And that's too much. That's pretty heavy-handed, but let's bring it down a little bit. Let's make it maybe, yeah, I guess like maybe 11 would do the trick. Whoa, not 111, 11. Okay, there we go. And now that starts to feel like paper. It starts to feel kind of vintagey, kind of like old school. Um, uh, and now you see how there's no outlines. You don't have the sketch lines, but everything is kind of defined more or less. I do hope that you enjoyed it. Remember to add your little signature on there. So sign your little piece, even though this is not my original character. But it is your fan art. I wouldn't sell this or anything. I do still sell some fan art, and that's a whole other topic, maybe for a video. But uh, anyways, we're not gonna talk about it now. But yeah, just give it a little signature. Call it a day. Give this. You could print this out. Give it to a friend. Um, and I hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you have any other questions, let me know in the comments below. Feel free to follow the channel for more videos like this. And Merry Christmas to all of you. Thank you for following along. I'll see you on the next one.